like Baldy said in his video on Instagram before he got here, we know that y'all are off and we ain't here working. So we know you ain't doing nothing.
We know y'all watch.
So get over and tune in. Get to YouTube. Like I said, YouTube. SportsRap TV. Check this out. And we are about to delve into, like I said in the intro, the world that we have been waiting for months. A lot of people have been anxious. Preseason is finally over. We got real football coming up on Thursday. We got real football. So, just to give you a recap, folks, most of you that have already tuned in or always tuned in, you know that I am outnumbered in this fight. Got two 49ers fans.
Take the hat off to show y'all see it.
And I've got one Eagles fan here, but we make it do what it do.
Yeah.
Now, difference is, Frank's gonna be upset when I say this.
Well,
difference
we got a tougher division.
I think we got tougher division. Cause our division is more mediocre than any other division in the league.
Y'all gonna win the division.
But it's still, you say y'all got a weak
Cowboys. The Cowboys are overrated. Giants are not ready yet. The Redskins is trash.
Okay,
I just broke it down.
But y'all had somebody in our division. Y'all got Seattle,
the Rams,
the
Arizona.
Right. So y'all had people.
They got a Bengals and quarterback.
But hold on. The point I'm getting to is in y'all division, you've had numerous repeat division champions. Seattle had a run.
True.
The Rams are pretty much owning that division right now.
Right.
When was the last time you had a repeat champion in the NFC East?
That's true. Usually the NFC South is like that, right?
That division is arguably the toughest division in football because of the mediocrity from year to year. You could have a team win that division this year, and they could be at the bottom of the division next year.
My Niners might win this year.
Like, look at the Giants. Take the Giants for example. And the Giants won that Super Bowl that year. They won 9-7. They won that Super Bowl.
07.
Right?
Yeah.
What did they do when they came back the next season?
No.
Terrible.
It was in the bottom of the division.
Yeah. True.
The Eagles.
Y'all like the NFC West.
The Eagles.
The South.
Most recently, the most recent Super Bowl winners in that division.
Right.
They won the Super Bowl. Incredible run that year. They won the Super Bowl.
Right.
What happened the next year?
They made the playoffs.
They were in it, but they had to fight.
Yeah.
It came down to they had to basically win out their last 5 or 6 games to get in. You know, those teams always play each other tough. It's very rare that you have a team sweep the division. The Eagles were the last team that actually swept the division when they had Donovan McNabb. So nobody really sweeps that division now. And the majority of the time, the way it just seems like the last 3-4 years, the schedules for that division have been set up where the last 3 out of their last 5 to 7 games are meaningful division games. Right. Or non-meaningful division games. Like the last 2 years, it come down to the Cowboys and the Eagles playing each other late in the season. And that game usually is the game that decides who wins the division.
And the best thing ever happened was the league putting those division games at the end of the year.
You know why?
So those players had something to play for.
Yeah, they're right.
Because people were resting players.
Got that incentive.
Yeah. So that was one of the best things that the league ever did.
Week 17, that's in almost every division, especially in the NFC. I'm gonna put this last game. It's gonna be a meaningful. It's gonna be like a playoff game.
What's that?
Like the Giants, like you just finished saying.
Oh yeah. It's always gonna be like that. Like and I think that's better. I think they've started doing that now for every division. Yeah. And I think it's better. Like Baldy just said, it makes more of a competitive nature.
Yeah.
It gives you that kind of NBA feel. Yeah. Like the NBA games, even if it's like 7 games left for the NBA, 2 of them games you ain't really got to worry about win or lose. It doesn't matter. You ain't really got to rest or whatever. Right. But them other 3 to 5 or them other 3 to 4 games, you got to win them. Yeah.
Wrestling players.
And with the football thing, with the way they changed the rules and having the ties like we had last year, we had those ties that we said hurt teams. Right. It's either going to help you or it's going to hurt you. And a lot of times it hurt last year. It hurt a few teams last year. So before we get into this week's schedule, we're going to get into the first week 1 schedule. We're going to talk a little 49ers. We're going to talk a little Eagles. Before we get into that, though, now that we have Baldy here, I wanted to backtrack a little bit. And we talked about it 2 weeks in a row. The partnership tuned in, so he knows what was said here on air.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give anyone that's tuned in for the first time, or anybody that doesn't remember what was said. One of the things I said initially was, it's probably time to have somebody like that in that room, at that table. I always bring back to when we talked to Dr. Jason Carthen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to get in that room, and somebody has to say, or make them say, well, look, he's sitting here talking like this. Maybe there's some more of them out there like this. One of the other things I did mention was Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, great things. But for them as players, Malcolm Jenkins, whoever else, as players sitting at that table, I think it doesn't do them enough justice, because the NFL, the league still has a hold on them.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like we mentioned last week, the league can get funky with it and say, well, listen, you need to start thinking about doing it our way, and we'll give you this and this. Can't give you that. We're going to give you a little bit. But if you still want to fight for that,
it's not gonna work.
then we're going to have to start saying, you need to play. You can fight for that, but you need to play. Now, when you decide you don't want to play, now we're going to start fighting. So they have a hold, somewhat of a hold, and many different avenues which ways they can go on the players. And lastly, before I let you chime in, Bob, one of the things I said is, people have to understand that we always talked about not being that person in that room, not being that fly on the wall. And I said one of the things we had to do with protests is, we can't send all the angry people all the time. We can send the angry people, but we got to mix it. That are in this fight. There are some Asian people that are in this fight. Hispanic that are in this fight. We've all got to come together. But then, when we take the next step, and which one of the things I think Jay-Z is going to do, we have to have somebody at that table that can relate, that doesn't have that cloud over them, that won't have that hold on them by the NFL. And I think Jay-Z can do that because he is a business, he's a businessman, and he is us, in essence. So I think people need to just take a step back, see what happens before they start shooting off, because everybody's talking the obvious, you know, and this is one of the things that our people do immediately. First thing everybody said is, oh, well, we know the halftime show is going to be great. It's not even about the halftime show, because if you remember, because of the way Kaepernick was treated, Jay-Z backed out of the halftime show.
He did.
So he has pretty much his own hand, Rock Nation has, in you know, selecting that portion of that halftime show. You have someone that looks like us, acts like us, talks like us, but can be the other side sitting at that table right now.
Yeah, I mean, you made a lot of valid points in regard to being in the room and having representation for us. One of the things that I did was, when I sat back and watched the entire interview, and I was reading the Complex magazine, and an interview asked, are you okay with partnering with an entity that clearly decided not to hire this person because of what they were fighting for? And what in that moment, there's something that has to happen.
Right.
Either I'm going to think business, or I'm going to think culture. You got a decision to make.
Okay.
And in that point, Jay-Z chose business.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because what he did was, he maneuvered around the question and said, well, this is not about Colin Kaepernick not having a job.
Let's get off that. He said that.
Listen, it's not about him having a job. But technically, that portion is. Because he's being oppressed and still not being able to work. He made it, he washed it, he windshield wiped it, and then brought it back and allowed the owners to see that he's possibly on our team.
That's why some people got mad.
Which that's a business move.
True.
Yeah.
That's a business move.
Right.
But it's not like Jay-Z is a dude that has not fought for social injustice.
Yeah.
He has.
He did.
And see, before you finish, bro, just so you understand a little bit better, Frank, that's the point I was making when I said the NFL players had a hold on them. Like Jay-Z, in all essence, got them to believe what he wanted them to believe. Business savvy.
Yeah.
With the players, it's more or less like, wait a minute.
Selling out, maybe?
No, not so much selling out, but on the business side of it, the NFL, the bigger conglomerate can look at it and say, all right, that sounds good, but
right. But what we see is
you still my employee.
Yeah.
I understand you got this and that as an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we'll look at this and we maybe look at that. We ain't gonna look at that. We might think about this, but the bottom line is gonna come down to even what they give you. It's going to be on their terms because you're their employee.
You're on my watch, right?
You're their employee. So now I can say, as an employer, I can say, all right, Frank, this is what you want. You can have this. You can have this, and here it is. But it's my guidelines, and now I can hold you accountable to that.
Right.
Whereas the first slip you make, I pretty much have carte blanche to say, Frank, you suspended, or Frank, we're gonna nix this whole deal.
Right.
With Jay-Z right now, it's not that easy.
He doesn't work for them.
I ain't gonna say you can't do it, but it's not gonna be that easy.
He doesn't work for them.
He's a
smart man. He's a smart man.
You know.
Well, whether he's smart, not smart, connected, not connected, there is that he's maneuvering.
Yep.
Jay-Z wants to move to the next building. That's his chess move.
Yeah.
Now, any event that you make your move to that next billion, you can double back and take care of us. If that's the line, then like you said, we need patience and time. Let's see how this functions.
Let's see this wait. Give him a chance.
But under the same umbrella, don't get me wrong, my black senses is very sharp.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand how over years guys have got in that room, in that table, and have sold a whole generation of black people out for capital gain for themselves and their family.
Right.
It's happened over and over again.
All the time.
I know.
So having that seat at that table means everything. But once you get that seat and you decide that it's no longer about what you can do for us, and they create a lane just for you, then now you're on the other side of the street.
Right.
And so that's where we gotta watch it, because they have a partnership. Where's the details? They haven't released the details.
Not yet.
What Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reed proved was these owners colluded against them so that they would not have a job. The only difference was Eric Reed was still playing. So what did they do to Eric Reed? They drug tested him 11 times.
Made him wait.
No, during the season, they randomly drug tested this man 11 times. Now, random drug tests happen all the time in the NFL.
Right.
At least twice to 3.
12
They gave him 11.
11.
So here's the big bully picking on the little guy to make his life uncomfortable.
Exactly what I was just saying to you.
You know what I mean? And
I can make your life uncomfortable. I may not fire you, but I can do things that'll make you uncomfortable.
And so those things, even when Jay-Z said, we're beyond kneeling, that's fine. Because Kaepernick, at the end of the year, right when he decided he was going to be a free agent, made it his point to say, if I'm playing next year, I will stand for the flag. I use that as a barometer to shed light.
He wanted to open up the dialogue.
He wanted to shed light on. You gotta remember. Before he took a knee, you go back 8 games before. So what happens? He had to file a lawsuit against the police in that area because they said we're not going to protect him.
Right.
Because this is how you think of. Well, wait. I thought that was a amendment.
Right.
And your job is to serve and protect. So it doesn't matter if I don't like you.
Right.
You gotta do your job, and your job is to protect me.
Smart too.
But they clearly, at that particular time, had some things against him. He filed a lawsuit against them. That got settled. Okay, so now you got the NFL and the police department are now calling the NFL like, well, what are you gonna do with these guys talking dirty to us? So that whole thing transitioned, and now this dude still doesn't have a job. Still doesn't have a job. He's still not working. Still doesn't. Nobody's even working him out. So that lets you know that there's still
some issues.
that collusion going on amongst them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I tell you what, if you're gonna be the guy that hire him, they're gonna look at you dirty. You're gonna lose a lot of endorsement deals.
There was an owner that even said it.
Yeah, he definitely said it.
He said, he's like, I don't want to do it because of the backlash that that I could be subject to from the other owners.
And what they also said, here's what they also said, that Kaepernick being on your team can hurt you more than help you. Not from a player standpoint, but from a business standpoint. And to me, what this dude has done in opening up dialogue, and people were saying, you know, well, where was he at when such happened? He wasn't doing it then. Well, listen, let's be clear about when you become awake about social injustice.
Right.
There's no time frame on it.
That's right.
The minute that you realize, yo, this is not right, and you start making motion, that was your awakening.
Right.
Doesn't matter what transpired before you.
Right.
You may not have been interested in that.
Right.
He might have just been kissing his biceps on the touchdown kid, and he dealt with that.
Right.
Some
right.
racial inequality throughout his life. He's been an outcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you didn't live in his shoes anyway.
Right. And see, the other difference is, you know, like Dr. Carton said when he was talking to us, and we continued on with saying it.
We talk about this stuff.
You have $1 billion conglomerate. Just like in the casino. You go to the casino, you start winning. At some point you're gonna lose. It don't matter what casino you go to. At some point casino gonna get some of their money back because you gotta pay the house.
Yeah.
You gotta pay the I don't care how much you win.
The longer you stay, the more you lose.
That's why you leave.
So, the NFL being that $1 billion conglomerate, they're going to protect the house. And like you're saying, but the difference is, like you're saying, that people need to just take a step back and wait and see.
Just watch, man.
You know, I mean, I understand your colored or your African American hood, whatever radars are up. Fine, it's supposed to be up. But again, first thing everybody talks about, and when they hear Jay-Z and Rock Nation, oh, well, the Super Bowl is going to be perfect and this and that. It's not about the Super Bowl. It goes back to everything that Baldy just mentioned and what Colin Kaepernick said after his protest. He said, if I get a job back, I will stand. I may not look at the flag, but I'll stand. You know, and that's not complying. He was satisfied, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think where it went, he opened the door. Like I said, he opened that dialogue with his point, his statement, silent statements, and it went. And Jay-Z's point, in a small way, and people don't look at it this way. A lot of people don't look at it this way, but in a small way, this is the answer to that age-old question, and I'm using that as a cliche, to what goes on. We've had these protests. We've had people standing outside the NFL headquarters protesting and claiming this and claiming that. Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed had a collusion suit that was settled by the NFL. Settled. They got paid. Not so much they got paid, but it was settled and they got, you know, compensated.
They proved it.
They proved it. And the NFL tried to save face, so they paid them. Now, again, like we say, what is the next step? We can't continue to, like I said, we can't continue to just send the angry people and protest. We can't continue to protest. Well, not say we can't, but we have to do something different.
Let's do something.
We can still protest. Now, like I said, people take a step back, but the thing is, people are overlooking the light, the silver lining in this whole situation. Like we all just sat here and said, now we have one of us at that table. Jay-Z is one of the most business savvy. Him,
Puffy.
I put Jay-Z and 50 Cent above Puffy.
50 Cent? What he been doing lately?
And we'll talk about 50 Cent in a little bit. We'll talk about 50 Cent all there. But one of the things I want to mention why I put Jay-Z up there too is just to backtrack and take notice. Remember, Jay-Z was a part owner of the Brooklyn. He sold his portion of the team, but kept his stake in the building.
I didn't know
why?
I didn't know
real estate, baby.
You know why? Real estate. But it's real estate, and it's going to bring more revenue to him. It's going to bring more revenue to Brooklyn because now it's not just used for the Brooklyn Nets. It was built for the Brooklyn Nets, but it's not used for the Brooklyn Nets. There have been concerts there. There's always some boxing going on there.
Yeah, the restaurant too.
The Barclays Center is right off the subway in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Right.
You go to Brooklyn, get off the subway, come up the steps, you looking dead at the Barclays Center.
Yep.
So it's revenue for his city, his borough. I'm gonna say finagle, but the way his business savvy took over, he said, look, it's more beneficial for me and my community if I keep my hold in the building. The team is the team. Like the team is personal, because I'm the only one that's gonna have percentage of that. Me, my wife, and my family. If I keep hold of that building,
community.
that I got some power to keep this building here. Because you know what happens every time certain things get up, teams start getting big. Like the Nets got KD now and Kyrie. It's gonna go up. Prices gonna go up. People gonna want to come in there and see it. And then there's always talk about, well, look, maybe we need to move them to a better location, a more feasible location financially, with a hold on the NBA. Nah, y'all not moving this. We gotta have 100% on each side to say we can move it. If I'm the two, they ain't going nowhere. It's gonna keep this revenue flowing for me and my community. And I think that's his lines as far as with the NFL, because I'm sure he's already put out there most recently that he's looking at possible ownership. His door in right now, he's in now.
Yeah.
Now it just depends on what he does with that. But I'm almost certain that he'll take the same route. I get in, get my feet in,
That's why they get the right guy.
Get my feet in, and I'll be part owner of one of these teams. And as soon as I'm able to,
that's what we hoping.
I need parts of this build.
We are hoping that that's what this black man do.
Look, I get this team, I get a little bit of piece of this team, and I work this team. I work this. Get in with these.
That's what we're hoping.
Elbows. Now y'all cool with me. Y'all see I can bring this revenue in. Now y'all got to give me a piece of that bill.
Real quick, I know it's early, and before we go to the next segment, I'm gonna ask both of y'all, man, you ball. I feel as though they got the right man in here. You think this is gonna work? What is he gonna do?
I mean, look, man. To be quite honest, everything comes down to economic power.
Absolutely.
Comes down to money.
Right.
And to be quite honest, when you start talking about money, now you're talking about the flow of the wave. The flow of the wave is black bodies that produce will bring you money.
Yep.
It's been that way in slavery, and it's that way in sports.
Right.
They used to didn't want to let us ball. Now we run it.
Jackie Robinson.
They used to didn't want to let us in. Now we at the door.
Right.
They used to didn't want us on the court. Now we all over the court. So now you talking about 80% of the NBA are black, 85, 86, something like that, and 74% of the NFL
is black.
Is black.
So we running it,
right?
Yeah.
That's from a player's perspective.
Right.
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 Okay, so now let's go back about 2-3 years ago when we had this conversation, and I said, you know what, D? What would happen if the top 15, 20 basketball players coming out of high school all go to black colleges?
I mean, we did talk about that.
What would happen then?
Oh, wow.
It'll be a
how is the wait? We talking about changing landscapes.
Right.
So Jay-Z being in there can allow him to change a landscape because he's got cats looking up to him from a business standpoint.
You know, a lot of
Rich Paul moved. They tried to do that. Try to blackball Rich Paul with
the new
you know what I'm saying?
Criteria. Yeah, the agent criteria.
Right.
Yeah.
New black man rule.
Right.
When they see us making the move, there'll be a new rule to try to derail us.
Absolutely.
It's always been that way. So you looking at economic power. How do you create an economic wave? The way there has to be a curve. There has to be a dent that's created to where the masses, the people that's owning it, understand that if we allow this to happen, we bottom out. We gonna bottom out. And these businesses know that without us, there is no league. Without us, there's no NFL. Without us, our whole culture is wrapped up in the sports.
Right.
They don't even play rock music no more in stadiums. They play all hip hop. That's us.
And remember, back in about 90,
that's
they
us.
said hip hop was gonna die.
It was gonna die.
Yeah, they talk about that.
Hip hop is everywhere.
The culture
music is everywhere.
Clothes, everything.
The culture in general, black culture, has infiltrated every single aspect of this country, from food all the way to sports. There's no getting around it. But guess who's not benefiting off of it?
Us.
So it all goes back to saying economic power. How do How are we able to
Right.
level this landfill with economic power?
Right.
Well, it starts with parents,
Yep.
with their kids
Jay-Z knows
saying, again,
But that's the whole bottom line.
Frederick
Jay-Z
Douglass,
does.
I can build, you better off building children than broken men.
Mm-hmm.
So I can build children. I can build a whole generation of children that in their brain,
Right.
it doesn't matter where I'm going to be from a sports perspective. I'm going to Howard. I'm going to Morgan. I'm going to Florida A&M. I'm going to a black college. Because what changes that is, here it is, you're getting this college is getting government aid.
Yep.
Well, guess what happens now? If Zion Williamson would have went to a black college, it would have sold out because he was the number one player in the country. It would have sold out every day. Every game it would have sold
They
out.
probably had to move certain games to bigger arenas.
They'd had to move the arenas. That's more income for that black university.
Know that too. Yeah.
Well, everybody knows it.
Dude.
But what happens is you're an athlete, I'm your parent. D is Kentucky.
Oh.
What Kentucky does is they come to me and they say, listen, your son comes here.
Look, we got it
We
for
got
life.
we gonna make sure you
We
good
got it for
too.
life.
Here's what a black college can't do. They can't say that.
They can't say that.
They can't say
This is
we're
where
going to
that
take
whole-
care of you from a
This
parent.
is where that whole
Kentucky
NCAA
can't.
This is where that whole scandal came from.
Michigan.
And they've been doing it forever.
But this is where that whole scandal
yeah.
came from.
Right.
You know, and it took one dude to get greedy,
To blow the
to
whistle.
blow the whistle. That's all. But it's been going on. It's still going on now.
Ain't nothing changed.
Ain't nothing changed. It's just a report that's out. They still investigating.
They finding
but
ways of
it's still
maneuvering
going
it.
on now.
Yeah,
You
back
know?
in the day, was doing it back in the 80s.
They've been doing it forever.
Yeah, they've been doing it forever.
So back to what I'm saying, just about that. Then we could close out on that with Jay-Z and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The economic power wave through Jay-Z, if he can implant these things into these next generation of players,
Right.
that here's the new wave.
Right.
Here's the new wave. And if that wave can happen, you'll see a shift that's going to be crazy in sports.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that would be the best thing. But again, we need time and
Right.
patience. Let's see what this man is doing. I'm not going to condemn him until I know what's going on.
Yeah,
until I can see.
Yeah.
Filtration. See. And it ain't going to happen in a year.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, no.
Probably gonna have like 5 teams.
Listen, whenever it occurs, there has to be information behind what it is he's doing.
I believe in him.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I believe in myself.
Yeah.
I don't trust not no man.
True.
Because at any given time, a number can come up and they can buy you out.
Yep.
True.
So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
True.
the bottom line is, I think, is simple fact,
Mhm.
and the underlying fact is that sitting at that table,
It helps.
they're looking at Jay-Z
Yeah.
as the businessman he is, but deep down inside, outside looking in, he's just like one of us sitting at that table.
Yeah.
Just a billionaire.
They can't pull the wool over his eyes. As
They're not
easily
gonna be
as they
able to.
could,
Right.
as easily as they could.
A player.
as a player,
Right.
or a lawyer
Mhm.
that hasn't played sports or anything, that hasn't been in the situations that Jay-Z's been in, the way he's come up. Because Jay-Z, like I said, Jay-Z is us.
Yeah.
You know, so with that being said, like I said, people just give it a chance. You got your third opinion. We're going to take a quick break. When we
Right.
come back, it's week 1, football, NFL, coming up.
G-G-G. That's Jay-Z.
Oh, 2 things, Mark. 2 things. Yeah. The Copa. I'm gonna celebrate. Utah ain't come over.
When